Welcome to the Latino Business Report. This podcast covers business, people, and issues of the day from a Latino perspective. The Latino Business Report is brought to you by TAMAC, the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. TAMAC is the leading Hispanic business organization in Texas since 1975. Now for your host, J.R. Gonzalez.
Hola, mi gente, and welcome to another episode. Our guest today is Omar Uresti. Omar, I've literally known all of his life, and he has one of those unique jobs that he actually gets to play for work and make money. Omar Uresti, professional golfer. Omar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, JR. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for joining us on this episode. Omar, you've been golfing for about how long?
48 years.
48 years. You started as what?
4 years old.
Literally 4 years old.
Yeah.
How did you get into golf? I mean, it's one thing that a lot of Latinos, now you see more and more, but you've been doing it for so long, there weren't very many Latinos in the game. What perked your interest? How did you get started?
My dad used to play a little bit. Not that I think at one point he was pretty good, and then his game kind of fell apart, and then he quit for a little while, and then he got back into it, and he used to take me out to Lyons Municipal and Butler Pitch and Putt, and me and my brothers.
Over in Austin?
Yeah, over in Austin. And I would take me out, and I picked it up. He cut down a 7-iron for me when I was 4 years old, and I just started swinging at it and fell in love with it.
My gosh, Omar, I literally remember you growing up that the golf bag was just about as tall as you were, dragging that thing out to the course.
Yes. And when we'd go out and play, both my brothers and I and my dad, whoever lost the hole between my brothers would have to carry me, and the other one would carry the bag once I got too tired.
Well, that seems fair. So you've been playing for all these years. Now, let me ask you, as you've kind of grown up in the game literally, what kind of changes have you seen?
Many changes in the game. The equipment's the biggest thing. The equipment's more forgiving. It's easier to hit. The golf ball goes farther than it used to. Doesn't spin as much, so it goes straight. It goes a lot straighter than it used to. So it's been a big change. The courses now, because of the equipment, have gotten longer.
Okay.
So, and then the one thing out on tour, on the PGA Tour and Champions Tour now, is just that the level of play has just increased so much. There's so many more young golfers out there than there used to be. Back when we were growing up, it was kind of looked upon as a kind of a nerdy game, or somebody who wasn't maybe very athletic would fall back on golf or whatever, or a rich man's game as well. But a lot of the football players and baseball players didn't really take to golf until later in their careers. And then I had many in college of the football players at the University of Texas used to walk up and was like, man, I wish I'd have started playing golf when I was a kid.
And that's your alma mater, right? University of Texas?
Yes, it is.
You're on the golf team there?
It's on the golf team there.
And actually, when you were there, they won quite a few championships during that period, didn't they?
We won the Southwest Conference 3 of the 4 years I was there. We finished, I think our best finish at Nationals was actually second place. And I think another time we finished like 8th or 9th. So wasn't as good as it could have been, but they were still good finishes.
Okay. And you also played on the high school golf team?
Yes, at Crockett High School in Austin.
And junior high, no golf team in junior high?
No golf team at Fulmore, no.
Okay. But been golfing pretty consistently. How many days a week are you on a golf course?
Average week, 5 or 6.
5 or 6?
Yeah.
So, Omar, let me ask you this. I know the tournaments, you're in an actual tournament about how often? I know there's different seasons and stuff, but on an average?
I'm usually, nowadays, not as much as I used to be. When I first got out on the PGA Tour, I was playing probably an average of 30 tournaments a year, and now I'm only playing about maybe 12 to 15.
Okay. But in between tournaments, you would practice?
Yes. Would come home, maybe take a day or two off, and then get back at it and practice for a couple of weeks trying to get ready for the next ones.
So even though a lot of people think it looks like a great life and it may be kind of fun just to play golf and make a living, that's work.
It is work. It's grueling, especially if you're not one of the top players. If you're just squeaking by or struggling to make it, it's a grueling way to live. And I lived like that for quite a while, just kind of week to week or, year to year, trying to make things, just to squeak by, really. And fortunately, a lot of that play, paid off for me, and I'm not that I'm living enormously well or anything, but I'm able to get by and survive and have a good time and continue to play the game that I love.
Omar, you have a condo on the golf course in Onion Creek in Austin. You're doing fine.
I'm doing okay.
You're doing fine. Don't be modest. You're doing okay. So as you're looking, I can only imagine, and please, I am very ignorant when it comes to golfing because unless the course has a windmill or an alligator or a pirate, I don't play the course. But there's entry fees to these tournaments, right?
The majority of the smaller tournaments, yes. The PGA Tour, actually, and the Champions Tour don't have entry fees anymore.
Okay.
But when we first got out, they did, but they were only $100. When it's like the smaller the level of the tour, then the more the entry fee is, because that's the way they raise their prize money. So, but as a golfer, professional golfer, I can imagine you spending a lot of money just in equipment and greens fees and practice and. Yeah. And once you turn professional, fortunately, most of the companies will give you equipment. Titleist has been my golf ball, golf shoe, golf glove supplier ever since I turned pro. So fortunately, I haven't had to pay for that stuff ever.
So like with other major sports, there's sponsors.
Right. There's sponsors. Some guys get, like I said, most of the club companies will supply the pros with their equipment. And most of and then some of the pros will get other sponsorships on the side to maybe help with travel and stuff like that.
I can only assume when new clubs or new equipment comes out, all those manufacturers want the pros to try it.
That's
Show it
right.
off.
Yeah, they are out there constantly trying to get guys into their equipment, which I don't blame them, especially if it's good stuff. Right now, the Titleist has just come out with some new drivers and fairway woods, and so they just sent me a couple to give a try, and I'm going to see how they feel.
Okay, Omar, what advice would you have for somebody? Let's say you have a young listener out there, somebody who's possibly in their teens, maybe college, loves the game, that's thinking of becoming pro. What advice or suggestions would you give them? Don't do it? Is it?
Yeah.
One of them?
It's a headache. No, just to set some goals and then set some steps in ways to achieve those goals. That was one thing I really didn't do much of when I was younger. Yes, I had goals, but I didn't have a format really to achieve some of those goals. I knew I needed to practice, but
it wasn't structured enough.
It wasn't structured enough, I don't think. But, that allowed me, I think, to have a little more fun with it. And, if it might have been more structured, if I'd have had some more solid, definite goals, if I had written them down, and looked at them every so often, and I think that might have helped me achieve a little bit more.
So actually writing down your goals and objectives and sticking to a schedule.
Yes, definitely. You got to stick to a schedule. It's
so even though you had the discipline to go out there and practice all the time, you wish you'd had more discipline in sticking to some sort of schedule
right. Or set a schedule up each week on what part of my game might need more work that week than the other, where I just kind of went out and did a little bit of everything and, not really always focusing on one aspect of the game that might have needed more work than the other.
Well, you started learning playing with your dad. And then I know that high school you had coaches and stuff, but what did you do in between as a young man? Did you hire coaches? Are there even coaches out there or mentors or teachers? What's available to somebody in those early years?
Well, fortunately, when I was growing up at Onion Creek Club, we had some great head pros and assistant pros that worked in the shop that would get out and go play with my best friend and I, Todd Harbor, and his little brother and a couple other of us. So we'd get out and go play rounds with them. And They showed us a lot. One of them was Brent Buckman, who was Ben Crenshaw's team roommate and teammate at the University of Texas back in the early 70s, and they won 2 national championships back to back. Another one was a gentleman named Jack Gaudian, who had tried to walk on the team at the University of Texas and then realized he wasn't quite good enough, so he got in the golf business. But he knew a lot about the game, and he showed us, would spend a lot of time with us on the golf course, chipping and putting, going out and playing and having little games with us. And when he became an assistant pro, he would have, we'd go out and play, and if we beat him, he would give us a sleeve of golf balls, and if he beat us, we owed him a Coke. So I owed him a lot of Cokes, but he'll never let me pay it all off.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, in your family, I mean, golf has been a family game. I mean, your dad taught you guys, the boys.
Yeah.
And then your brother was your caddy for a while, wasn't he?
Yes.
Your older brother.
My oldest brother, Rusty, he caddied for me, but he was a professional baseball player first.
Right.
And
he also went to UT, I believe.
Also went to UT for 2 years, and he was a catcher there and caught Roger Clemens and Calvin Schiraldi.
Wow.
So he had some, great teammates that went on to make it big in the pros, and he signed with Atlanta, got hurt, they released him, and then he went down to Mexico and played in Mexico for 3 years. Then he started selling cars, and then we got the idea of maybe to save a little money for him to try caddying for me to get me out on the PGA Tour, and lo and behold, we ended up making it through, and he caddied for me for 6 years.
Wow. And he's still a professional caddy now?
He's still a professional caddy. He caddies for a gentleman named Jeff Maggart, who actually, the funny thing was, Jeff was a senior at Texas A&M my senior year of high school, and they were recruiting me, so Jeff was there on my recruiting trip.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, so I've known Jeff since a senior in high school, and now my brother's caddying for him.
So who caddies for you now?
I find different guys from site to site, from one tournament to the next. It just depends. Since I'm not out there full time anymore, I don't need anybody out there all the time. I'll just find somebody each week. There's caddies out there that are always trying to find a job for the week and hope they hit the jackpot.
Well, I know as a golfer, I mean, it's up to your skill and your game whether you bring home money or not, but the caddies get paid regardless. I mean,
correct.
And they make pretty good money, I understand.
Yes, anywhere from, I would say now, depending on what tour, $1,000 to $2,000 a week, and then if their player does good, they get a percentage.
Nice.
Yeah. But they're
what's the average age? Am I too old to be a caddy? I mean, that sounds like kind of fun. You
got to be able to keep up.
I don't know about that. Well, if I can drive the cart, that'll be a lot easier. So let me ask you this: in your time, have you ever come across any of the Latino greats, Chichi Rodriguez or Lee Trevino? Have you come across them at all?
I have, actually. When I was 12 years old, there was a tournament. They only had it 1 year down in Greenleaf, Florida, just outside of Orlando, called the Andy Bean World Pro Junior. And it was one touring pro paired with 3 juniors from 3 different age groups. And my dad and my mom went down with me, took me down, I should say. And my dad ended up meeting Chi-Chi and talking to him, and we ended up playing a couple of practice rounds with him and his nephews. And then just got to know him really well. And funny story is, it's actually a great story, because after the tournament, or one day, I think it was the day after the tournament or something, he took 6 of us kids, we were all like 11, 12, 13 years old, to Disney World in a little 15, 17-foot RV. And he drove us there. And we got to the parking lot, and he's like, "Okay, guys, here's y'all's passes. I'll be right here. It's 8:30 right now." And he's like, "I'll see you back here at 3 o'clock." So he sat in that RV for over 6 hours while we were in the park.
You guys went wild.
While we went wild in the park.
Hombre, he was probably drinking a beer, listening, air condition on, all relaxed.
Johnny Walker, I think.
Okay. Well, that's very generous of him to do that. I mean,
he's such a great human being. He's done a lot for golf and a lot for junior golf, and I still try to keep in touch with him every now and then. I'm actually going to be down in Florida, where he now resides, down kind of near West Palm Beach area. So I'll be down there at the beginning of the new year. So I'm going to give him a call and see if I can at least get together with him.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to bump into him a few times, and he's a super guy.
He's awesome.
Super guy. Awesome. How about Lee Trevino? You ever have a chance to run into him?
I've met him a couple of times. We had a short talk. Unfortunately, never got to play any golf with him. But and so that's one person I would still like to get together and play some golf with. The other one that I did get to play with was in the Pro-Am one year at the Legends of Golf at Onion Creek Club, where I grew up and where I still live. I got paired with Roberto De Vicencio.
Okay.
And another super nice man. He passed away 5 years ago, maybe now. But he was a great golfer in his own right. I think he won 80 tournaments or so worldwide.
Wow.
So he was an exceptional golfer, super nice man, and just and when the Legends of Golf was at Onion Creek back in the late 70s and early 80s, he and his partner Julius Boros and even Chi-Chi, some of the other golfers would come over to the house and just hang out and play pool, have a couple of beers, and tell stories. Because my dad being Latino is like them, and they'd come over and we just have a great...
closer to their age, right? You were the kid in the room.
I was the kid, so my dad was closer to their age, and we just have a great time.
Omar, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it again?
I would.
Why?
I just love it, and I'm competitive. It's one way to challenge yourself daily.
Okay.
It gives me purpose as well. Just trying to get out there to try to do better than I did the day before, even though it's almost impossible to do it every day.
Okay, so you started golfing at age 4. Mm-hmm. You're now what, 54?
52.
52. Okay, so you've been at this for almost 50 years. I mean, I can't even imagine how many swings how many times you've hit that ball over the years. But you do it again.
I would. I've been fortunate enough to not to have any crippling injuries that hurts the golf swing or hurts that might debilitate my game. So I'm still at it, and I still love it. And
how long do you think you can keep doing it for?
We'll see. Competitively, I don't know how many more years as far as trying to get out on the Champions Tour. Nowadays guys are lasting a little longer out there, so
you got better equipment,
but physically and everything, we know a little bit more about working out and stuff, even though I don't do as much as I should. But guys' bodies are lasting a little bit longer. Although you get the young kids who are working out, I think, in my opinion, way too much, and they're having injuries way early in their career that I think in the future are going to limit their career. But those guys are the ones making millions, so they'll be okay.
Oh yeah. If they know how to save.
Exactly.
Omar, what's your best golf story? What's been the most amazing experience that you've had?
Well, there's a couple of them. The first one that comes to mind, once I turned professional, my brother Rusty, it was one of the, other than going through the PGA Tour qualifying tournament, I think it was the first tournament that my brother caddied for me on what is now the Korn Ferry Tour. It used to be the Nike Tour back in that day, in 1994. And on the third round, we were playing and whatnot, playing the third round of the tournament. And I got on kind of in the zone, as you would call it. And I made 9 birdies in a row.
Wow.
Which at that time set the professional record.
Wow.
Of a professional in a PGA golf tournament or in a professional golf tournament. And the record still stands to this day. It's been tied, but it has not been broken in a professional golf tournament. So
9 birdies in a row.
9 birdies in a
tournament.
Row. And I beat Chi-Chi Rodriguez's record of 8.
That had to feel so good.
So, and whenever Chichi and he and I and Anthony Rodriguez from San Antonio will get together. Chichi had a fundraiser in San Antonio, and he'd have Anthony and I go out, and every year he told that story. He would tell the story of me making 9 birdies in a row, beating his record of 8.
That was amazing.
And then the other story is in 1997, in the 3rd round of the Phoenix Open. I got paired with Tiger Woods.
Did you?
And it was a day that he made his hole-in-one on the 16th hole out there and made that hole what it is today as far as the craziness of the spectators and all that, because the crowd went nuts when he made it. I ended up, I had the tee, so I hit first, and I hit it to about 2.5 feet, almost right behind the hole. And I made the mistake of just thinking to myself, let's see you hit it closer than that. And I never watched him swing because he swung so fast and hard at it, and I didn't want to get out of my rhythm, so I would turn my back and listen. And he hit, and I started walking. I took about 10 steps and looked up. I saw the ball land, bounce one time, and then bounce in the hole, and I just thought to myself, only Tiger.
Wow.
Turned around, and it was just a shower of beer cans and cups flying at the tee box, so I was glad I started walking. But yeah, that was that's my other really fun story, I should say.
Well, with that, let's leave it on a high note. I don't want. I'm sure you have some heartbreaking stories as well.
Oh yeah.
But Omar Uresti, a man who plays to work and works to play. I mean, that sounds like a heck of a life, Omar. Thank you, Omar, for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Please do me a favor and say hello to your mom and your brother and your entire family over there.
You do the same?
I will. Hope to see you again soon. And keep swinging and keep playing. And folks, you've been listening to the Latino Business Report. My name is J.R. Gonzalez, and we will see you next time.